Okay, week 3 of semifinals is about to get started, and I am a little bit sad. Not that week 3 is happening, but that it is the final week of semifinals. I love this part of the season. It's exciting seeing so many athletes punch their tickets to the games, some new athletes pop up on our radar like we had last week, and it's just fun. I was down in Pasadena for the North America West semifinal. I made a vlog every single day. I'm going to link a playlist of that up here if you haven't seen it yet. I worked very hard on it. And if you're wondering about the behind the scenes of Amanda Harry CrossFit YouTube channel, it is all me. I do all of the work myself, so put a lot of time into that, and I'm really proud of that. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Anyway, for the reason that you are here today, we are going to preview the week 3 competitions. And we're gonna start with the Europe regional. And this has 11 athletes from both the men and the women qualifying and 10 teams. And this is a really exciting region because it could have some games winners in it. And it is very competitive and one of the best. I think this year the best regions were, in no particular order, North America East, North America West, and Europe. And this week we have Europe. So let's take a look at who on the women's side I think will be qualifying this year for the CrossFit Games. First, I will give you my women's podium, and this is in order. The rest of the list I will give you will just be in no particular order, just who I think will qualify. But the podium, I'm gonna do in order. So winning this semifinal, I have Laura Horvath. And the reason I decided to put Laura Horvath on my podium, on the top of it, is partially because she came in 3rd last year at the games and had the best games finish of this field last year. But I also think the fact that this set of workouts favors a larger, stronger athlete, at least that's what we've seen over the last few weeks. I think that this will be a good test for her. Yes, there's handstand push-ups in that one event. I don't think wall-facing handstand push-ups are nearly as much of her kryptonite as the parallel handstand push-ups. They're not the same. Parallel deficit handstand push-ups and wall-facing handstand push-ups. Different. She didn't do too bad on that workout in quarterfinals either, so I just don't think that's going to hold her up like some people may think based on some other things we've seen in the past. Different movement, it's not the same. I did toy with putting the person in 2nd in 1st, and that is Annie Thorsdottir. And I did a way too early predictions of who's going to win the CrossFit Games in 2023 back in August of 2022 after Tia there'd been rumors that she may be retiring, and now she's mothering a child that she just had, so she won't be at the games competing in the individual women's division. So when I did that, I had Mal O'Brien in 1st, also will not be competing, but in 2nd, overall, I had Annie Thorsdottir. So you may assume because that I would put her in 1st here. I'm not, and that's mostly because I think this weekend semifinals type testing, only 3 days, will be better for Laura than for Annie. I still think Annie could win the CrossFit Games. Maybe, but, and beat Laura there. I think there's a potential she could beat Laura there. But I think this is going to suit Laura a little bit better than Annie. They both competed at the Rogue Invitational, which is also a stronger, bigger athletes competition. And Laura beat Annie, and it wasn't particularly close. It was way earlier in the season. Annie can be in a different part of her training now, but I truly think Annie is focused on trying to peak for the games and win the games. And I don't think necessarily winning semifinals is something that she's needs to do or even is focused on doing, because that doesn't mean you win the games. You want to peak in August, beginning of August, not now in May. So that is why I have Laura 1st, Annie in 2nd. I think this suits Laura a little bit better, and I don't think Annie's going to be where she'll be in August just yet. In 3rd, this one is crazy. It was a risk. I wanted to put someone in my podium that not everyone else in the CrossFit community has on their podium. So I took a risk, and there is a good chance I am going to be wrong about this. But I wanted to throw something a little bit crazy out there so this doesn't seem too predictable. So I decided to throw Sarah Sigmundsdottir on my podium. I know, it's crazy. And possibly a mistake, but these are only predictions. It's speculating. This is for fun. This was a fun pick. Let's enjoy it. Sarah has been at the podium at the games before. She's battled with injuries. Last season, she came close to making the games, just didn't quite get there after having an injury that kept her out prior to that. So I think that she is zoned in and focused on this. She has missed a couple times, has dealt with injuries. I think she wants to make it back. So hopefully things will align for her to do that. I do think that possibly she should approach this a little bit more conservatively and not shoot for the podium, even though I put her there. She is like a lion though, so I don't think she's going to do that, but because maybe a coach will help her pull back a little bit though, hopefully, because she doesn't necessarily need to try to win this or go for the biggest lifts like on that snatch. We just want to see her get through this healthy, really, but I think if she was healthy and if she was the old Sarah, and maybe she's the new and improved Sarah, but if she was the old Sarah, she would have a potential of podiuming with these workouts. Bigger, stronger athlete. So I'm gonna cross my fingers and hope that she can do something really awesome. We saw Katrin David's daughter make it on the podium last weekend, and I don't think anyone had predicted that. I didn't. So maybe it's the daughter's time. Maybe the daughters are coming back, you know? Maybe. And now here's for the rest of my qualifiers. I'll put them all up on the screen, read them over, and we'll talk about some of them. So I have Emma McQuaid, who has done very well in the past, does some training with Sam Briggs. I think that she has a very good chance of qualifying. Matilda Garns, Gabby Magala. So I don't have Gabby on the podium, and she's everyone's popular third place pick. I think the upper body pulling is gonna hold her back a little bit. We've seen that you can qualify having some poor finishes in these bigger fields, but I think that's gonna hurt her. So like the muscle ups with the rucksack, maybe the legless rope climb. So those are some things I think we're going to see her struggle with. And she did slide a little bit at the games last year, going from a 6th place finish in 2021 to a 8th place finish in 2022. Now, she's made a lot of changes this past year. She's moved. She's being coached by her boyfriend, which is Christoph Horvath, Laura's brother. So there's a lot going on there. Change can be good. Change can also come with some growing pains. So I'm keeping her off of my podium, but I do think she has the potential to be there. Moving down the list, Jacqueline Dahlstrom. She did great at semifinals last year, did great at the game. She had a very memorable sandbag clean event, but I just don't think this programming is going to benefit her. So while I think she's going to qualify, she will likely be one of those athletes that are in that like 6th through 9th place, maybe just like someone we don't talk about all weekend because she's just in a qualifying position and not really blowing any of us out of the water, but also not getting too close to the cut line that we have to focus on her. Emma Tall, Manon Angenes, Katrin Freyova. She won Dubai this past year. Now, there wasn't a ton of big names at that competition, but there were some that qualified for the games already this year, like Emily Rolfe, and she beat Emily Rolfe at Dubai. So she definitely has the potential to make it to the games this year again. And lastly, I have Thuri Helgadottir. I feel like you can't count her out. She's one of those athletes that always sort of knocks on the door. She's smaller. This is not great programming for her, but I have to put her in here and keep her a little bit closer to the cut line because she's been to the games 8 times, 1 time on a team. She had her best quarterfinals finish of the 3 years we've had quarterfinals. So I have to believe she's doing the right things to make it back to the games, but I don't think this programming helps her at all. So now let's talk about the athletes that I have on the outside looking in. I have Taylor Howe. She's a very strong athlete. I do believe she's someone who will be battling for a position at the games. I'm just not sure she'll quite be able to get there. I have Andrea Solberg, Amy Kringle, who has been close before. I think that she could do well on that running event, the first event. With the sled, she's not super tiny, but she's really athletic. So I think that that may work in her favor, the fact that she can move the sled and run some. Elisa Fuliano, she made the games last year, but again, a smaller athlete. We always have rookies that don't make it back the next year. And I think with this strong field and with the programming, it's not going to bode well for her. Johanna Moya is somebody we've seen get close in the past. And last, Solveig Sigurdsdottir. She also was at the games last year. And again, not all those rookies usually make it back. And I just am not sure if she'll be able to do it again this year. But I have her on this list because I think she can be battling for one of those last spots. She's working out with Annie Thorsdottir over at CrossFit Reykjavik. She is big and strong. This programming may be better for her. So there's certainly a chance that she can steal one of those spots. Everyone I have on these lists that I give you after of people that I think can make it is just that. They can make it. I would not be surprised to see anyone I have on this list make it into the top 11. Okay, let's go over the men now. And first, I have Björkvin Karl Gudmundsson. Can't ever count him out. He, I believe, will be possibly qualifying for his 10th CrossFit Games. That's a very small club that he'll be joining, along with Noah Olsen, who qualified in week 1 for his 10th, and Cole Sager, who qualified in week 2 for his 10th. And he's done very, very well at the games. Every year except his first year, he's been in the top 10. That's extremely hard to do. Cole Sager, who we just talked about, has not done that. Noah Olsen, who we just talked about, has not done that. So Björkvin, extremely good athlete. And I think regardless of the programming, he is someone you always have to expect to make it. And I'm putting him on the top of my podium, even though he finished second at his semifinal last year. Second, I have Joona Koski, and he had a rough semifinals experience last year. He missed semifinals, but he wasn't feeling well, I believe, and was having a bad weekend. Bounced back, qualified through the last chance qualifier. I think he will have a much easier shot of qualifying in this field this year as opposed to what he had happen last year. And in third, I have Lazar Dukic, and he had kind of a weird year. During the off season, he did quite a few competitions. He hasn't done any recently, and I think that'll help him out, but he did not look good at any of those competitions. He went to Rogue and hurt his ankle on the first event and limped through the rest of the competition, literally and figuratively. And then he went to Dubai and also did not look great. But I'm hoping taking some time off from competition recently can have him bounce back. We've seen him do very well in the past. I think that if he's rehabbed his body and taken the time to recover, that he has the potential to do well here. So again, here's the rest of the athletes. No particular order that I believe will be qualifying for the CrossFit Games in 2023. Fabian Benito, he was first in quarters this year, and he won Dubai. I think both of those things are very good signs from doing well. Quarters was very recently, so we know he's fit now. Dubai was a little while ago, but that shows that he can perform well in person. So I think all of that leads for this year to be a good year for him. Next, I have Moritz Fiebig. He was on the podium at Dubai as well. Then I have Enrico Zanoni, Hendrik Hapalainen, Jorgis Karevis. Those are some names we've seen before, so I think they're gonna make it back. Oldis Upinek also has made the games before. I think he'll be back as well in this field. We only have 9 men in this field who have made the games before. So there's 11 spots. I think there's a good chance the men who've made the games before make it back again, or at least the majority of them. 7, 8, maybe 9 of them. And then I have Luka Dukic. That is Lazar's brother. And I just think that he is very hungry. Missed out on the games last year, had to watch his brother go. And he's been training really hard. Looking at his Instagram, he seems very focused and zoned in on making it back to the games. Big fields here. I think there's a good chance. Like I said, only 9 athletes who have qualified for the games. So we can have every athlete who's qualified for the games, including Luka, make it back to the games. And I think he's gonna do that in this field. Now for some names of athletes I think could be there, but we'll see. So we have Bronislaw Olenkowskis. He trains with underdogs who have had a lot of success, not at underdogs, but under the tutelage of Justin Kotler. So we've seen some success from the dogs this past week. They qualified a team. Alex Gazan finished in first place at the North America West semifinal. I think he's someone to certainly look at and could very well sneak into that 11 field. Then I have Anol Ike. That is almost definitely not how you pronounce that, but we're trying. He competed at both Dubai and Miami. That's a lot of good in-person experience, and I'm thinking that having that experience in those fields of games level athletes will help translate here. And then Victor Hofer, very young. I believe I saw he's 20 years old. I was looking at some of his stats from previous competitions. It looks like he's improving year over year. This could be the year he makes the jump. And now let's take a quick look at the teams. I think the team competition here is pretty interesting, but I'm not gonna take a look at all the teams because I think sometimes people's eyes glaze over a little bit with that because there's so many names and it gets a little bit confusing. So let's just do the top three. Let's do the podium and talk about those athletes and those teams. So in first, I have CrossFit Oslo Navy Blue. Now, they didn't finish first in quarters. They finished second. But you know where else they finished second? The CrossFit Games last year. So I feel like you can't count them out to be anything lower than first. They also won their semifinal last year. They're a team that's been working together for a long time. They know each other. They've competed on the floor next to each other many times. You just got to expect that that experience is going to carry over and they're going to win, punch their ticket. And I think now that Mayhem Freedom is gone, the only team that beat them last year, they have their sights on winning the CrossFit Games. In second, I have No Shortcuts CrossFit. And they actually were fourth in semifinals in the world. They beat Oslo in the world in semifinals. So you got to keep your on a team that can do that. But like I was saying before, Oslo has the edge when it comes to experience competing together on a big stage in person. So I'm still picking Oslo to beat them, even though they beat Oslo already this season. And finally, I have CrossFit Walleye Athlete. I picked this team mostly because who they have on their team. I think they have some great athletes and they have a legitimate chance of getting on that podium. You know, maybe even push a No Shortcuts CrossFit. We'll see. So that's it for Europe. Let's move over to Asia. And Asia will be qualifying 2 women, 2 men, and 2 teams. And that's all we're gonna talk about, just those, the two. So starting the women, I have Dewan Jung in first. She won quarterfinals, so you can see she's in pretty good shape right now, and was just 1 spot out from qualifying last year. And with the top woman from this region not competing this year, I think she has a legitimate chance of qualifying, and with seeing her quarterfinals finish, I think she has a chance of getting that first place spot. And in second, I have Sahar Kai. She went to the games last year, and her gym is CrossFit Oslo. You know who else works out there? CrossFit Oslo Navy Blue. So that's a pretty legitimate gym. They've had some amazing athletes in the past. When you're in that type of environment, that elevates you. So I think she has a legitimate shot of making it back to the games. For the men, in first, I have Arthur Semenov. He made it to the games last year. Him and Roman were pretty clearly the best people in this Asia semifinal last year. Roman's out. Well, he's not out. He's not out. Roman's not out. Roman's already qualified. He qualified in North America East. He got an exemption. He's out of Asia, but he's in the games. But I think Arthur's going to take the first place now that Roman is no longer in Asia. And now in second, I have a man whose name I will probably not do great at, so we're just going to read it off the screen. It is Morteza Sadagat. He won quarterfinals. He finished 5th last year in his semifinal and the year before that. And I think he's poised to make a step up now that there's no more Roman in the field. And finally, the 2 teams, and I just went with the top 2 teams out of quarterfinals because I think they have potential and they looked pretty good from their scores there. And that is CrossFit Fly High Kolesnikov team. They were pretty dominant in quarterfinals, had a couple first place finishes and I believe a second and a third. So just very consistent all around in quarters. And I imagine that's going to carry over into semis. And then Stud CrossFit Team Stud. This is a Chinese team. We haven't seen a lot of Chinese athletes at the games. I think this could be a good way to get some there. And the team called themselves Studs, and I'm just gonna have to trust that they're a bunch of studs. are gonna do well at semis. They did well in quarters. Just gotta carry that momentum into the semifinals. Anyway, that is a wrap on my semifinals predictions for week 3, and I guess technically for the year. I'm sad that semis is over. Reminder, if you didn't watch my videos from North America West semifinals, take a look at that playlist. I will also link it below in the description in case you want to go over there now. Worked really hard on those videos. There are a lot of awesome athlete interviews in there, exclusive interviews. So if you want to check it out, please do so. I appreciate you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.